Good morning. Wednesday, the 26th of August, 2020. 3 days till our daughter's wedding. I'm Pastor Ron Jetter, interim pastor at Immanuel Lutheran Church, Grandview, Washington. Have you ever been tricked, cheated, had someone make a deal and then go back on it or change the terms of it, or maybe a wager, and then of course when they're losing they want to renegotiate the whole thing? There is a Latin phrase that I learned a long time ago, and you probably did too. Caveat emptor. Let the buyer beware. That's definitely the case when we're buying a car, for instance. Do we really know that we're getting the good deal? Well, in the back of our mind, there's that thought. Yeah, they saw me coming, and boy, I'm sure they're not smiling outwardly, but inwardly, I'm sure they got the better of me. And we often have that feeling after we've signed the deal. Even if we did get a good deal. If you know a good car dealer that you really trust, let me know. We'll be looking one of these days. Family. When you go into business with family, that's often the case too, because there are unspoken expectations and they come back and bite you. Somebody sees things a different way. That was the case between Laban and Jacob. Laban sees that he has given his son-in-law so much, even though he has prospered. Nonetheless, he gives himself credit and a little bit to Jacob's God, but he knows that he's got to hang on to Jacob, and he believes that his daughters are still his daughters, even though he said, yeah, you worked for me for 7 years, they're your wives. Legally, nonetheless, he doesn't intend on honoring anything if he can get away with cheating Jacob yet a third time. Now we are in chapter 31 of the book of Genesis, verse 1. Now Jacob heard that the sons of Laban were saying, Jacob has taken all that was our father's. He has gained all this wealth from what belonged to our father. Interesting perspective. Jacob was the one who increased their herds, and remember that Laban took a bunch of the flock, sent it 3 days away with his sons. So his sons still have plenty of dad's property, but now they're looking at what dad still had left, which was kind of meager. That was because of the choices that Laban made. But the sons are going, yeah, we're going to protect our dad. It's about blood being thicker than well, in this case, blood, because Jacob was their cousin, but Laban was their dad. Jacob saw that Laban did not regard him favorably as he once did. The Lord said to Jacob, return to the land of your ancestors and to your kindred, and I will be with you. So Jacob sent and called Rachel and Leah into the field where his flock was, and said to them, I see that your father does not regard me as favorably as he once did before, but the God of my father has been with me. You know I have served your father with all my strength, yet your father has cheated me. He has changed my wages 10 times, but God did not permit him to harm me. If he said, the speckled shall be your wages, and all the flock bore speckled, and if he said, the striped shall be your wages, then all the flock bore striped. God is the one who has taken away the livestock of your father and given them to me. Jacob knows this was God's doing, and then Jacob tells about this dream that he had had, where God said to him, do this, and I will make sure that the goats and the sheep are speckled or spotted or striped or are black, so that they are not Laban's according to the deal. He will lose based on his own word this time. And God continues to say, verse 13, I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed a pillar and made a vow to me. Now leave this place, this land at once, and return to the land of your birth. Then Rachel and Leah answered him, is there any portion of inheritance left to us in our father's house? Are we not regarded by him as foreigners? For he has sold us, and he has been using the money given for us. All the property God has taken away from our father belongs to us and to our children. Now then, do whatever God has said to you. So Jacob arose and set his children and his wives on camels, and he drove away all his livestock, all the property he had gained, the livestock in his possessions that he had acquired in Padan Aram, to go to his father Isaac in the land of Canaan. Well, by this time, Isaac was on his deathbed, and that was 20 years ago. Now Laban had gone to shear his sheep, and Rachel stole her father's household gods. And Jacob deceived Laban the Aramean in that he did not tell him he intended to flee. So he fled with all that he had, starting out across the Euphrates, set his face toward the hill country of Gilead. So shearing the sheep, this must be in the late summer then, and he's now heading across the Euphrates, heading back across that desert. He's going to then get to the Jordan River, and he's going to head back across the Jordan River into the land of Canaan. Well, you don't do it quickly. God says flee, and you think flee means run. Well, you're driving flocks. So you flee at, what, a mile an hour? 2? I mean, how many miles can you go in a day? It's going to take months. It'll be late fall by the time they get back to the land of Canaan. So it wouldn't take much for Laban to figure out, I've been tricked. But this is the interesting verse, though. Rachel stole her father's household gods, verse 19. What household gods? Well, these are a very superstitious people. The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is a very different kind of God. That God has not said, here's what I look like, here's what you need to do. They took rocks and anointed them and set up pillars and altars, and in those places they said, God has met us in this place. But in no case did God say, now take some little thing, shape it like this, and take it with you in your pocket. Take that amulet, and I will be with you. Later on, we'll find out God will forbid that very thing. But God hasn't yet said to them, don't do that. But they don't have any desire to. They know God has said, I'm the God who met you at Bethel. Remember, you made a vow to me at Bethel. Go back to Bethel, where that well is, that wellspring. The house of God. You called it that. Okay, I will be there. That'll be my house, and you and I will meet there. So meet me there. Okay. But Laban was typical of the people of that time. Household gods. They would carve, or they would cast, or mold little figures, figurines, amulets. It may be a tree, it may be a snake, it may be an animal, it may be part animal, part human. These kinds of things would be their household gods. In the book of Isaiah, when part of Israel has turned to doing this same practice that was still common among all of the other nations around them, Isaiah makes fun of the Israelites who have abandoned God, saying, so you take a piece of wood and you carve half of it into a god and you bow down to it and you put food and you sacrifice and you cook your food with the other half of it. Well, you know what? Cook your food with both halves, because that's not a god. God will not meet you. God will not honor your amulet. We put crosses around our neck. Does God want that there, or is it for us to remember God? God doesn't care. In fact, there are some Christians who say, God forbids us from having any kind of image like that. There are some Christians who say we should not have any pictures. They would be called iconoclasts. And then there's the Greek Orthodox, who have paintings of Christ and the apostles. The Roman Catholics, who have the figurine of Jesus on the cross in every church. Back then, they had little household gods, and Rachel took her household gods, which to Laban meant, now the protection of my gods has been stolen from me. Jacob has his God, and Laban should be a little bit afraid of Jacob's God. But now Laban doesn't have his own gods. What's Laban going to do when he finds out? Well, verse 22. I'm glad you asked. You did ask, right? On the third day, Laban was told that Jacob had fled. So he took his kinsfolk with him and pursued him for 7 days until he caught up with him in the hill country of Gilead. So it took Jacob had a 10-day lead. 3 days for the news to get to Laban, 7 days for them to catch up. So he may have gotten 100, 200 miles at the most, but they caught up in the hill country. So they've crossed the desert, and now they're going up into the hilly area, which would be on the east side of the Jordan River. God came to Laban, the Aramean, in a dream by night and said, take heed that you not say a word to Jacob, either good or bad. So now the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is speaking to Laban, warning him. Laban overtook Jacob. Now Jacob had pitched his tent in the hill country, and Laban with his kinsfolk camped in the hill country of Gilead. Laban said to Jacob, "What have you done? You have deceived me and carried away my daughters like captives of the sword. Why did you secretly flee and deceive me and not tell me? I would have sent you away with mirth and songs, with tambourine and lyre." Yeah, he is a liar. He would not have. He would have tricked him and tried to keep him there. "Why did you not permit me to kiss my sons and daughters farewell? What you have done is foolish. It is in my power to do you harm. But the God of your father spoke to me last night, saying, 'Take heed you speak neither good nor bad to Jacob. Even though you had to go because you longed greatly to be to your father's house, why did you steal my gods?' Jacob answered, 'Because I was afraid, for I thought that you would take your daughters from me by force. But anyone with whom you find your gods shall not live. In the presence of our kinsfolk, point out what I have as yours and take it back.' Now Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen the gods." So Jacob has just uttered an oath. "Whoever stole your gods, it wasn't me, but I swear to you, their life is forfeit." Rachel, whom Jacob loves, for whom he worked 14 years, who finally had a son, Joseph, is the one who took them. Oh dear. Oh, Joseph, or oh, Rachel, now what? Stay tuned. Tomorrow I'll be coming to you from Lake Oswego, Oregon. I'll be outside and hopefully be a little bit cooler. See ya.